You're listening to the Tuesday Review live on 98.9 Northwest FM. I'm Nathan, as always joined by Alan. How you going, Alan? What's something that's made you happy this week?
Something that's made me happy this week is Slow Horses. I've got my brother-in-law watching it now.
Ah.
So I sat with him and watched the pilot episode, and he got more and more excited over time. And then I said it's on Apple TV, at which point he got upset because he doesn't have an Apple TV account. But, you know, sharing is caring. He is family, so he's watching it, let's just say.
Also joined by James. How you going, James? What's something that's made you happy this week?
I got nothing, to be honest. It's been a real rough week.
Okay.
But I'm very happy that we have a special guest in the studio today. So
That's fine. That
I'm
works.
happy about that.
Also joined by Callum. How you going, Callum? What's something that's made you happy this week?
Oh, look, I'm in the same boat as James. But I'm going to make an effort. I'm going to say Netflix, you know.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Live
Watching
content
wrestling.
coming out
Yeah.
on Netflix, which I kind of enjoyed. We saw Nosferatu, which is something that made me happy on Saturday. That was great.
yeah.
Still not as good as OG Dracula, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Something that's made me happy this week, I will say watching YouTube, Johnny Carson. Watching Johnny Carson YouTube
old
clips that made me
clips.
happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
old clips.
That was a good.
And we have a very special guest this week, John Balazs, filmmaker of Rage and Freelance. Thank you so much for being here, John. What's something that's made you happy this week?
Being here.
Being
That's
here?
what's made me happy.
Nice.
That's it. Inflate our egos.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I guess so. Just to introduce you, you're a local filmmaker and you've done a couple movies at this point.
A few.
A few films in this point. I guess, what kind of filmmaker would you say? You're like more into the thrillers and the action and the kind of suspense movies, or how do you classify yourself as a filmmaker?
Basically anything except rom-coms I'll tackle.
What if the screenplay is really good, though?
No, comedy's hard to do. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Not something I want to... Know your limits, people. Okay? Know your limits.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, but look, I generally get, I guess, attracted more towards the darker side of life and things like that. You can have a bit more fun with it. But I did do a lot of short action films to begin with. And I thought that that's where my niche was and my strengths. But lately I've been finding myself in a more comfortable realm of thriller. Not so much horror, but just a more psychological thriller, drama thrillers, just,
Yeah.
the darker side of life. pretty
Yeah,
much,
which is fun.
Yeah.
I guess, like, something I guess we always start our interviews, like, where did you get your start? How did you know you wanted to be a filmmaker? Have you always wanted to be a filmmaker?
Yeah. Look, I mean, you guys have guests on this show, and they're always going to go on about some magical experience in their childhood. They always inflate their journey to begin with. I just started with a camera in my backyard in Geelong. Me and my brother, we started making ninja films in the backyard, VCR to VCR editing. Then obviously high school came along, and I just never stopped loving the art of filmmaking. I've never stopped wanting to be it. I guess I consider myself very lucky being raised by a single mum. She never pushed me to be, a lawyer, a doctor, a banker. She said, if it makes you happy, be the best version of yourself that you can be. So she encouraged it. So as a child, I just spent my hours watching many, many films that I probably shouldn't have watched as a kid. RoboCop,
We can tell.
Terminator.
Watching your movies, we
It
can
may,
tell.
it may come across in your work.
I mean, I was 8 years old and I'm watching like beefed up guys throwing fridges at each other and shit. Stuff that I wouldn't let my kids watch now. But I was involved. Before Jackie Chan was a thing, I knew about him. I met him. When he was filming Mr. Nice Guy, so I was Jackie Chan obsessed. That's when I got into Hong Kong cinema and the way they do their action stuff. And me and my brother would go in the backyard and learn the choreography to Police Story or Armor of God, and we'd come inside with black eyes and blood noses and all that, but we'd down the choreography because we loved it. So I was always an action orientated kind of child. I enjoyed it. And I think one of my earliest memories of wanting to get into film was growing up in Budapest in Hungary, and my uncle renting American Ninja, the first one, when it came out. And I would just watch that film again and again and again and again. And that's when I started loving Canon films. And, it's like, I'm like, damn, these guys make really good films. Of course, looking back at it now, they're like, these are pretty shitty films, but you love them, But that's pretty much my journey all through uni. And then, I got out of uni. I stopped uni for stopped film school. because I thought I'd get a better experience. And then I basically went down the whole road that most filmmakers do, is like wedding videos and corporate commercials and the really boring stuff. But that's where you learn to edit. And being an editor, as a full-time editor now, that has been my greatest gift in filmmaking, because we can touch on this later, but I truly believe to be a good director, you need to be a fantastic editor to begin with, because you're stitching a story together. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I've always loved it, and I'll probably die on set. You know,
That's the way.
That's the dream. I mean,
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is right there with you.
yeah, right.
And you know what? That tracks with pretty much every other guest we've had, every other filmmaker on the show. Is just they just did it. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like that's just how they get into it, by doing it. Like no one's gonna ask
Yeah.
permission. No one's gonna give you permission. No one's gonna do it. You just
Yeah.
have to go out and do it.
No, and you have to have a little bit of craziness, because
Mm.
to pick an industry like this, I mean, it's probably the most unforgiving, most brutal and relentless industry to get into. When it's hard, it's grueling, it's soul-sucking, but when it's good, oh my God, it's good. You know, it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've heard a lot. Every director says there's something special about being on set. Like there's that electricity that runs through it.
There's no other workplace like it. I mean, you know, whether or not you're in an office or in a factory or, you know, doing anything else other than filmmaking, there's no other experience like going on set, especially as a director where you're the captain of the ship. There's no other experience of like, all right, all these people are here to help me, you know, make this vision come to life. It's such a team effort. It's the most collaborative art form that there is. You can go away and you can make music by yourself, you know, with a guitar in a recording studio, but you can't make a film by yourself. You cannot make it by yourself. So, learning interpersonal skills and learning how to communicate is a big part of filmmaking. There's so much more that goes into it than just sitting down and going, you know, lights, camera, action. You know, that doesn't exist. There's a lot more discipline that goes into it. You got to be patient. You have to be. You shouldn't be a boss on set, but a leader. So I'm the type of guy that I'll pick up the cables with you. You know, I'll stay behind to help you pack up. You know, I'll make sure that the set's back to where it used to be. I'm not the type of guy that just ups and goes because, you know, ooh, John's a director. You know, you got to get your hands dirty, and it's a very humbling. It's a very humbling profession, because at the end of the day, whatever mistakes you make or whatever greatness you do, you're ultimately the one responsible for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of lessons learned.
So being a director and an editor, you know, you have to wear a lot of hats when you're making a film, right? What's your favorite hat to wear? Like, what's your favorite part about the movie making experience itself?
Well, okay. Because I'm an editor, it helps me direct, because I know the shots that I'm going to be getting will splice into each other. I've been asked to edit a lot of feature films before in the past, and a lot of the times the director that has asked me to edit, they really haven't thought about the insert shots. You know, it could be a glimpse of someone looking over. You know, it's a quick shot of their eyes or a hand movement or something like that. It's like those little shots that stitch a sequence together. They kind of forgot about it, or they haven't anticipated it, and then, you know, when you're sitting down editing, you're like, damn, I wish you got this shot from this angle, or damn, you know, I wish you did another take with this way. But me as a director, I know what I'm shooting because I'm already cutting in my head.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I'll be cutting on set as well. So I'll be like, let's go back and do this because, you know, the angle is not right, or you know, I feel like we can insert a little shot here or a little shot there. So my brain is constantly in edit mode as I'm directing.
It shows
because,
in your films too, because like I watched Freelance today, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking the editing is actually one of the highlights of the film, because like I can actually tell that you've thought about what to transition to some of the shots. It actually, like, you can see the work that's gone into the stitching of the narrative. Which kind of led into one of my main questions as an editor and a director, but I guess primarily as an editor. How do you? This is a question we asked Adam as well as a producer, but it's the same thing. How do you pick your projects you want to work on? or how do you like pick a screenplay if you want to direct?
Okay. Well, in recent years, I have I've put on another hat, and that has been producer. So my company, Prima Lux Films, basically consists of myself as a director, editor, and my wife and producing partner, Marlene, as producer. But more recently, especially for the last two features, I've stepped into the role of producer as well, in terms of bringing projects to the table, finding the scripts, and then going out and funding it. Whereas Marlene's more the type to like schedule, budget, do all the contract.
So you do the fun work. She does the business. Yeah.
Pretty much. But yeah, look, I basically, I don't wait for inspiration. It just like with freelance, for example, that just came to me as a complete accident.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you tell us the story about
I can
that?
tell you that. I mean, look, basically after Rage, I was a little bit down. Rage was my first feature film that I made, and I consider Rage my film school. I made quite a few shorts before that, but Rage was the first time I went, you know what, I'm ready to do a feature film. I'm ready to get proper actors. I'm ready to do a 22-day shoot. I'm ready to have a budget of over 100,000. You know, I'm ready to not jump into the big league, because it's not a big film. It's still an independent film. But I was ready to tackle something outside my comfort zone, and that was my film school. I learned from some of the mistakes I made. I learned from some of the things that I did well. But when that was released, even though half the audience loved it, there was still another half that despised it.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, and you're reading reviews, and like, you know, some people were just like, oh, this is horrible, this is crap, this and that. But then you're reading other reviews and like, this is brilliant. I really appreciate what you guys have done. And then, you know, you go on IMDb and it's like, all right, you got 21 reviews, John. 11 of those are good. Why are you beating yourself up? But I did go down a very dark path where I'm like, you know, I didn't listen to people that I should have listened to. The length was a bit too long. You know, some of the acting, I guess, needed a bit more work. I should have spent more time on it. I should have done this. I should have done that. And I was quite disheartened, because I'm like, well, I've just blown my chance now, because this industry is very unforgiving. You got one shot, and you know. And then I guess I was just talking to Marlene about it. I'm like, you know, I'm never going to get another shot at this. But then she went, no, you will. Just let the storm calm down. And I think a year went by, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to look again. Just look. And then I found freelance just by pure accident. I was on a site called Coverfly, where up-and-coming writers put up their scripts. And if you want to license it or, you know, obtain the rights to it, just contact them. And I read the synopsis for freelance. I think I read maybe 15 or 16 different log lines, and I was scrolling down and I saw it. And as soon as I saw video editor, you know, the horror aspect, the thriller aspect of it, I'm like, damn, okay, this sounds really good. It kind of piqued my interest a bit, because every other script was like FBI agents and this. I'm thinking in my head, budget, no, you know, I'm like, I can't afford a helicopter, you know, that kind of stuff. You know,
especially something you're gonna make in Australia.
Yeah, so I was looking for something a bit more contained, a bit more, you know, I guess internal, where it's about the characters in a struggle. So I requested the script from Mike Gerbino. He's a New York-based writer. And lucky for me, the rights were still available for it. So I read it. I read it at night, and I did not stop reading. And that's when I knew that the script is good, because I didn't put it down. Normally, when I read a script and I get distracted, I'm like, nah, it doesn't hold me. But this one held me to the point where I read it twice. And I remember this story so well. It was 11:30 at night, and my partner, Marlene, was asleep, and I literally kicked the door in at the bedroom. I'm like, get up, you got to read this film. And she's like, are you out of your mind? It's 11:30. You know, I'm like, no, you have to read this script. She's like, I'll read it in the morning. You know, I'm like, okay, it's about this. It's about an editor. And she's like, blah, blah, blah. She's like, John, go to sleep. I'll read it in the morning. You know.
But of course, you probably couldn't go to sleep.
No, I was just thinking, and that's I was starting thinking about shots and all that. I was like, no, you got to read it. As soon as she read it, she's like, all right, what do you want to do with it? I'm like, this is my next one. This I want to do this script. I want to do it. So after that, I was just negotiating with the writer Mike and just be like, listen, I really want to do it. Here's my film Rage. I'm not bullshitting. I can make a film. We've done it before, so please let me have your script. And then it was just the journey of funding it and casting, the whole journey of getting it made. But that point where it's like lightning in a bottle, I was like, nah, no one else can have this script. I want the rights to it, and I acted very, very quickly, like overnight. I was like, nah, I gotta have this because, it was just one of those scripts that I'm like, how does no one have it yet? So,
I think there's so many film scripts out there and not enough filmmakers to make them.
Well, I mean,
so
look, it's there's a lot of scripts out there, but script writers aren't thinking about the ability to make them. They're writing all these big setups and these big scenarios, and an FBI agent drives across a country, and it's like, dude.
Yeah.
No one's going to give you the money for that.
No one's going to give you money
Christopher
for that,
Nolan's probably not going to come knocking on the door.
No. So you'll find that a lot of the scripts that are getting sold on these websites are quite contained, easy to film stuff that's got a niche to it. That has themes that are relevant in today.
It's also something we've talked a lot about on the show, is the people making the interesting movies, the people adapting or writing the interesting stories and scripts are indie filmmakers like yourself, because the big studios making the big blockbuster movies, they're not interested in making a freelance because it's not a commercially friendly, viable film.
Correct.
So you like to get the interesting films has to be someone like you, has to be someone like the writer to go and like, okay, I'm going to make this that's not just a friendly kids kind of
no, and like I said,
safe.
It was
movies are too safe now.
It was too safe, especially you have so many boxes to tick, and I'm really not interested in that at all. I'm not interested in ticking boxes. That's why I didn't go through Screen Australia. That's why I didn't go through any government bodies, because I don't want any restrictions on what I need to do.
That's awesome.
I've got a very boutique approach to filmmaking. It's a lot harder than, I guess, applying for the government grants and the concessions that the tax incentive gives you, but I find that this method allows me to maintain control and creativity without having to answer to, is your film diverse enough, or is your film this and that? I mean, I've got no problem with that, but it's like when it's forced on you, it's a bit of an issue for me.
Yeah.
That actually leads into a question we were going to ask a little down the line, but you already started answering it. Freelance has some pretty heavy stuff in it, including some shots of pornographic material and things like that. We were going to ask, what did you think about censors at all or anything like that? Like when you're making these shots and you're thinking about these stories you're telling, are you thinking, is this going to appeal to the art film people out there?
No.
Like, how am I going to self-stand on this?
No, look, basically, it's shock factor, but not to the point where you see anything. So if you remember correctly, there was pornography on the screen, but you didn't see anything.
No.
So I made sure to pick an angle of, and stuff like that was so hard for this film, because you're like, all right, hey Marlene, I'm just going to go on a porn site to download a clip, right? Sure.
It's for the movie, I swear.
She catches you at 3 a.m. You're like, it's research for the movie. Go away.
No, this one is so dirty. But yeah, look, you got to be very careful with that kind of stuff, because I'm like, all right, how do I get away with downloading something like a clip for porn and then be like, all right, number one, I don't want to get sued for copyright. Number two, I don't want any, as if the actor's going to come, hey, that's my ass on screen. But I just made sure to either blur it out just a tad or put it into a really wide shot, so you can't make it out. And these are the little things you got to think about.
Yeah.
So you think about censoring. It's like there's a scene with I don't want to give it away, but there's a scene with a woman in a bag and stuff like that. It's like, all right, how much of that do you want to show?
Yeah.
But how much of that do you want to hear?
Yeah.
The sound is just as important.
Yeah.
Because now it's up to the audience to be like, all right, what's the worst, most stuffed up thing I can think about in my head?
Yeah.
And as a filmmaker, I'll never create that what you can think.
Your imagination's always scarier.
But I'll make you hear it.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of a taste, but it's up to you now, So I didn't want to go too gruesome with it. I just enough to be like, hey, this film's a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm going to show everything for as it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a French filmmaker that will give you a,
Yeah.
I'm not making irreversible or anything like that, you know. So yeah.
Before we move on, actually, I think we should probably mention quickly. We talked to Adam LaRosa a few weeks ago, who executive produces film, and we talked about Freelance, which is still hasn't come out fully yet. We should actually probably say what it's about, so people know. We've kind of hinted at it, but I remember we read the synopsis during the Adam LaRosa episode, which people should definitely go back and listen to. But basically the synopsis is, when a down-on-her-luck video editor takes on a mysterious, well-paying job cutting snuff films, she is haunted by visions of the people in her videos. Which we read that and we were all like, yes, please. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to give the context.
I think that's a good idea
for people who are listening and being like, okay, what's this movie about? Why is he looking at porn?
Well, she's a porn editor. So that's what she does for work. And the character of Katie, she's quite a how do you put it? She's got a mouth on her that tends to get her into trouble, but her intentions are sweet, and that's what really drew me to her character, because I'm like, well, I've edited questionable stuff before in my life to make money, so I really resonated with this character. That's what I think. That's one of the things that drew me to the script, is like, if you can feel yourself putting some of your own personal feelings into a script, get it, do it, because that saying, write what you know, do what you love. Really, if it doesn't pique your interest on a personal level, don't do it. But yeah, I really felt her plight, because I've been in the situation myself where I'm like, damn, I need to make some money. How do I do it? And I'm calling people up to edit. This is when I was much younger, but I really felt Katie's struggle, and I'm like, okay, I can tell this story because I've lived a little bit of it. I know I can put some personal a bit
authenticity.
Authenticity into it, basically. Yeah,
I think it's also like something that kind of comes up in the film is like feeling shame over like what you have to do to get by or to survive, or people looking down on you because you have or you had to do something, or you had to have a certain job. Yeah. And it's just like, dude, everyone's got it hard. Just do what you got to do.
Well, a lot of reviewers have mentioned the word gig economy.
Yeah.
Which I found quite interesting. I didn't realize that, that theme would come out as prominently as it did. I was aiming for it, but I was like, okay, are people going to resonate more to the horror or the drama side of it? And it's like, people resonated more to the drama side of it, because as content creators are coming out now and in the world, people are sitting in front of their computers editing and trying to get their stuff out, and they know what it's like to be in a dark room by yourself with a computer screen. For me in this film, the computer was the bad guy. The computer screen. So it was quite an interesting thing to shoot. But going back to the themes of it, the themes were the things that resonated with me, because I myself was in Katie's situation. So not the snuff stuff or anything like that.
I was going to say, this is taking the time.
Just a down on your luck editor, and then things happen and you're suddenly fine.
Yeah. I guess going back to that, like, it is a very dark film. Like, how was I guess you debuted the film at Monster Fest last year?
Yes. Yes, last year.
Yeah. The reaction, like, were you worried going into it that people are going to find it too dark, or like, are you worried about kind of the general public's kind of?
Not really. Like I said, with Rage, I was, but I'm 40 now, and I'm 41 next month, and I'm like, I'm getting to that stage now where I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I just simply don't care. I've made a film that I'd want to watch.
Yeah.
And if there's people out there like me, they'll watch it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. It's that simple. I really don't care anymore.
Look, I think the worst case situation is it's a cult classic. Like, I think it's an Aussie cult classic, the worst case situation, which is great.
Look, I've made a film. I raised money. I shot it. I edited it. I released it. And I think that's all you can do as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
When you release it, it's in the hands of the universe.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing you can do. And they market it well, but people are going to hate it. People are going to love it. People are going to watch it. People are going to rent it. People are going to download it. It is what it is. You move on. I'm already thinking about the next one. So it's a life of its own for 18 months to 2 years. That's your life, and then you let it go. It's like raising a kid, just sped up.
Yeah, no, after 18 months, the kid's out of the house.
It's like raising a kid, but this one actually might pay you.
Yeah. Well, that's a trick.
We talked to Adam LaRosa about like the reason he would be a good producer, the reason you're a good filmmaker is because like you're passionate about the art form and you want to tell stories that you're interested in, and you're passionate about filmmaking. It's not about the commercial side or whatever. I mean, that's obviously something you want to be successful in. And so when you release a movie, it's like if you're passionate about your art and you just put it out, people will find it eventually, even if it's not like the most successful or commercial thing. Mm-hmm. It's like people will find it.
Yes.
So I think that's why a lot of the time when we talk about movies, it's like indie films are more interesting because you can tell that person was passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And they made it because they want to. Yep. And whereas a lot of movies, they come out and you're like, someone made this because they had a job, or someone made this because they wanted to make money, or someone made this because the studio had an algorithm that said that this is...
Yes.
So, yeah,
and sometimes they put those in a vault and never release them.
Correct,
yeah, and then, you get tax write-offs and stuff like that.
You have to have a fine balance here. I mean, I'm not an 18-year-old kid anymore making films for fun. I want this to be my living.
Obviously,
and I've made it. So there has to be a balance between creativity and commercial.
Mm.
There has to be a balance. I'm not a fan of filmmakers bragging about the fact that they made a film for $5. That just shows to me that you can't convince someone to part with their money.
Yeah,
you didn't convince investors that in your vision. That to me is just as important as knowing how to make a film. There's pre-production, which is the hardest part, and then there's post-production. The post-production is the marketing, the commercial side of it. It's like, all right, what do you need to do to get eyeballs on your film? The pre-production is like, all right, how do I convince an investor to part with their money and trust me to make a commercially viable product? That's the part. That's the hardest. The creativity. Any idiot can pick up a camera and shoot, but it's like, why are you doing that? Why is that angle going to tell that story? Why are you staying on this shot for that long? An audience will pick that up. An audience is going to question it. So it's knowing your craft, but it's also knowing the economics of it. There has to be a fine balance.
There's a balance, yeah, because we talked about with Adam LaRosa, we talk about a lot on the show, filmmaking, movies are the compromise between art and the commerce side.
It's a product at the end of the day.
Balance, yeah. And the problem we, see a lot in movies nowadays is gone completely to the commerce side. And the art side's just gone.
Yes.
Whereas there still has to be...
And I think audiences now are a lot smarter, and they're picking up on that stuff. You can make $100 million film and it can just end up being shit.
Yeah.
And
there's so many of them.
Yeah. Most of the time,
right?
most of the time that rule is correct.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, well, you look at a little film like
Red One.
Yeah.
What was that film? Red was it?
With The Rock.
The Rock's latest
The
film.
Christmas movie. Yeah.
I feel for the guy because
those aren't even movies; those are content.
Yeah,
this is what we always talk
I
about. John.
don't know what I would do with $100 million. I'd probably make 1,000 films.
You wouldn't,
Yeah, why not?
One, you could do that, but two, you wouldn't waste it all on The Rock's salary and standing Chris Pine in front of a green screen pretending to talk to CGI characters.
Like,
what a waste!
I'm happy in the indie. A lot of people say that to be a filmmaker you got to aspire to be the biggest and the best in Hollywood. I love living in Melbourne. Yeah. I love living in the northern suburbs. I love going to set and being surrounded by my mates and joking around and I cast my mates. A lot of my mates are the actors that I cast and the cast and crew that I like. What better job is it than to get paid to be on set and create and just to muck around with your mates on set? I love the indie sphere, and if I got an opportunity to do something in Hollywood, I would take it, but it would be out of my comfort zone. This is my comfort zone. I love doing boutique films because if I can make a living out of it, I'd want to keep doing it.
And it'd be great because Hollywood is the epicenter for like movies and media and stuff. And so everyone's always like, that's their goal, to go to Hollywood. But it would be great if,
Not mine.
No, but no, I just mean
Everyone
in general.
wants to be Spielberg.
in
Nobody
general,
wants
yeah.
to be Lars von Trier.
Not mine.
Yeah. But no, what I mean is, it's like in the last few years, we've been seeing a lot of great Aussie films like Bird Eater, and we
Yeah.
talked to resident filmmaker Matt Murrams, and
Yes, great guy.
and we talked about so many cool indie movies, and it's like it would be great if 10 years from now, maybe people are like, Melbourne, maybe instead of Hollywood, I should go to Melbourne.
Well, Melbourne still makes a lot of Hollywood films.
That's also
No,
true.
but I mean,
A Better Man
but they're
was made
still
here.
in,
Yeah.
they're still
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah,
movies
yeah.
that are just shot here because the tax
tax
breaks
also,
away.
yeah.
What I'm
Yeah.
talking about is like, you know, it would be great for Australia to be seen as like,
a hub.
yeah, like Melbourne is like, that's the cool indie.
We need more support from the industry for that.
And that's the thing, is a
We
problem.
need
with
more
the-
support just to. We need to bring back the systems where the governing bodies and the people that are pretty much in charge of content and what goes out, they just need to let filmmakers do their job and just leave them alone.
Yeah.
Just go do your film, and we'll pay for the marketing
Yeah.
for it. You know, go do your film. You got to have enough trust in vetted filmmakers. Not everyone can do it. You got to vet your filmmakers. Vetted filmmakers to be like, all right, go do your thing. We trust you enough. You know, and that's why I loved, you know, the philosophy of what Canon did back in the 80s.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make it a film, go to these guys. They'll just give you money and go do what you need to do. You
Yeah.
know, and that doesn't.
We
exist
lost
anymore.
that, yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore. But you know, I feel like a film like Freelance will do well. Hopefully, you know.
I hope so.
internationally.
Yeah.
Because you know, horror and fear and
I think it's
an-
we all liked it.
Yeah,
and
good.
it's one of those. It's one of those movies. Yeah,
It's in
yeah,
our
look, if we
wheelhouse,
hated
though.
it, we'd probably email you back and be like,
We-
look, I don't know, maybe we'll do it over Zoom.
We're
20-minute interview.
Yeah.
we're like, you know, as you know, we're like 8mm fans. It's like the
Yeah.
more messed up,
Yes,
the better.
yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes,
like
yes.
the
This is definitely one that I could see like Arrow releasing like a limited edition kind of,
100%.
you know, down the line, being like,
Yeah.
I'd like to buy the Blu-ray. I'd like to, you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those kind of movies that you think about.
The same with Rage. I feel like we're underplaying your first film here because I really liked Rage. Can we give a overview of what Rage is for the audience? Because, just sorry for the awkward question, is Rage available?
you want to hear that story?
Look,
Yeah,
we have to go to a very quick break, but I do want to hear that story.
Okay.
We'll be right back after these quick messages. You are back on the Tuesday Review Live on 98.9 Northwest FM. We are joined by John Balazs, who is going to tell us the story behind Rage.
Yep. Rage is a 2021 movie.
Sorry to interrupt you, Callum. Alum had an
I was
announcement
gonna
before we get
say, I
started.
owe this to my coworker, sorry, who are listening, Travis and Billie Jean. A shout out to you. The code word is jalapenos.
Okay.
is that to prove it's you?
Wait,
Got to shout out the listeners.
code
Okay.
word or safety word? Like,
they got to tell me the code word so that they can tell me that
They prove they listen.
they earn the shout out. You know?
Sorry, Callum, please continue.
After a violent home invasion shatters the quiet life of a young couple, the mild-mannered husband and his traumatized wife seek revenge against the intruder that is still on the loose.
wow.
So yeah, that's Rage.
is Rage.
I like both your films
Yes.
a lot.
you.
And we'll get into how amazing Australian filmmakers are later because we got stuff to talk about. But can you talk to us about Rage? Because like Freelance is like the current movie, you know,
Yes.
and we do want to highlight that. But I do want to focus on Rage because there's some really interesting stuff that goes on in that, and I want to know about like your process for it and the longer version that we can't watch.
Okay, so Rage,
He's like,
Rage,
oh, no.
Rage. Rage is my favorite. That will forever hold a special spot in my. So I wrote an outline in 2010 for Rage. I was watching what is it called? A Dateline episode of Dateline, and it featured the Cheshire murders. I don't know if you guys heard of that. Horrible crime. 2 escaped convicts break into a house. And this happened in Connecticut. 2 escaped convicts broke into a house at night, and it was a beautiful family, 2 girls, husband and wife. And those 2 men just completely destroyed this family to the point where I can't even mention it on radio. And I remember the details of that crime just really, really stuck with me at that time. 2010, how old was I? Maybe 25, I think. And I was just the husband survived, and I was just looking at this guy. I'm like, how do you move on from that? What do you do? What has to happen inside you in order for you to move on? Because this home invasion was just brutal. And being 25, I had no idea what marriage was, or a relationship, or anything, trauma, or anything like that. But I wrote an outline based on that murder. It wasn't to do with that murder, but the murder itself was the home invasion was the catalyst. And then I just kind of veered off to my own story. And being inspired by, films at the time, I kind of wrote this outline, which is dot points basically. And I shelved it for a good 6 years. I'm like, oh, no, I'm never going to do this. This is, bullshit. And then after Marlene and I made a few short films, I'm like, all right, I think we're ready for a feature film. So I put up an ad on to, I think it was Stage 32 or something. It's a writer's forum or something like that. And I said, I need someone to write me a story. Please send me examples of your scripts. It's got to be dark. I was really influenced by Gone Girl, because David Fincher is one of my favorite film directors of all time.
Well, that's funny. I've been referring to you as like Australia's next, like the next
Australian
David
kind, man. But yeah, I was very, very inspired by Fincher, and just be like, okay, well, what would he do with $6? Pretty much. But yeah, I was at the time I loved Gone Girl. I just loved everything about that film. It's one of my favorites. And I thought, well, there's no visual effects in there. It's just actors and good locations. I'm like, I can do that. Not as well as him, but I can do it, So then I put up this job posting, and overnight, I think I had like 205 submissions with scripts from writers all around the world.
Wow.
And I just had to narrow that down to maybe 5 or 6, and Michael Cospier, who had worked with an Australian director before, emailed me and he goes, look, I've just worked with an Australian director. My film just won, it was the Austin Film Festival or something like that. It won Best Screenplay. I'm like, all right, well, here's my idea. Can you do it? And then he went away and he wrote draft after draft and revisions, and he added in more than I originally thought. He added in detectives, and he added in this whole police procedural to the film, which I never planned. And I'm like, damn, you're good. Thank you. So then it was just a matter of financing it and funding it and just this is hard. Funding it and finding, and that's how I met Adam. Adam graciously, that was the first time I met him. He just said, you know what, I might not believe in the film itself, but I believe in you. So go do what you need to do. Here's some money.
That's high praise, because he was telling us about his producing work, and he says that he knows when he gets a screenplay. He knows. It's like when he feels things from it.
I think he feels the people more than anything.
Yeah, he won't produce something unless he can really feel it.
Yes.
Local Melbourne boys got to stick together.
Yeah.
That's also.
But Adam invests in people, not films himself. So I mean, to know Adam it's a blessing. He's just
lovely man.
He's just someone nice to know, and just he's a mate, always will be. But yeah, I started getting funding, and we did a proof of concept, and we tried to get funding from that, and that shit never worked. So we just kind of dropped it. But we got funding for it, and it was just slightly over the 100K mark. I can't go into complete figures, but it was over 100K. And then halfway through shooting, an investor pulled out with 80,000. Yeah, and we're shooting, and we've shot maybe for 12 days, and cast and crew invoices are coming in. I'm like, Marlene, I don't know if I can pay these people. And the second that you have a bad reputation about not paying cast, because I pay my cast and crew for everything, even short films, you have to pay them. Pay them $5 if you have to give them something, And I turned to Marlene and I'm like, what do we do? Do we keep going? Because we're halfway through shooting and we've got a momentum. What do we do? So we sat down and we go, all right, look, you got to put your producer hat on, John. And as you're directing on set, you got to be going out to find financing. So after I shoot, or after I finish shooting for the week, I'd try to tee up meetings with people and be like, hey, we need money to finish this film. And they're like, well, what's this film? And then I realized, I'm like, I got absolutely nothing to show these people. So with the footage that I've already shot, I cut together an investment trailer to be like, hey, I've only got half the film here, but I've cut together enough of a trailer. We shot enough to make a trailer for the film that hasn't been finished yet. And that got us over the line. Very, very, very difficult. So we got that done. I was very happy with it. The film went for 2 hours, 20 minutes. It was way too long. I was naive enough to be like, no, I'm making this grand operatic first time film. It's my debut. Let it be as long as it needs to be and all that. I didn't realize that an audience isn't really into that kind of stuff. So, they'll binge watch 5 or 6 episodes of a show, but they won't sit down and watch a 2.5 hour film. It's kind of you got to balance it out a bit. But I showed it to Gravitas Ventures because every other Netflix said no, all the big distributors said no. So we ended up getting a sales agent, and a sales agent, for those who don't know, is basically someone who has connections with distributors, and you're paying them for their relationship with these people. You're saying, hey, I need you to reach out to your contacts with my film and say, hey, this person has a film that they will want to release. So some of them came back with a no, some of them came back with maybe. Gravitas came back with a yes, Gravitas Ventures. And I was very happy with them. They released it in North America, and it did well, I guess, with the critics. Half the critics loved it, half of it didn't. I think it's sitting at 71% or something on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad for a first-time filmmaker. But yeah, it's just a matter of time of before I go, well, why can't I get it to an Australian distributor? Stan said no. Netflix said no. All the big indie distributors said no to it. So I just, at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to recut it. So I cut out, I think, about 35, 40 minutes of it, which is the version you guys saw. I changed the ending. So the ending that you guys saw is not the ending that the Americans are seeing at all.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I changed the ending.
We have to talk about that after,
it's amazing.
after the show.
I'll tell you why as well. But I changed the ending, and now because we've signed on with, we signed up with Radioactive Pictures to release Freelance, there might be an opening for finally an Australian audience to see Rage coming out.
Well, it's interesting because every filmmaker we've talked to has said that Australia is this hard.
I got no support. I got no support from any of the distributors here, and it was COVID. There was a lack of content. There was no content coming out, and I had a finished film.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the issue was. I don't know why. Maybe because I was a first-time filmmaker in the industry. Maybe
I think, look, from people we've talked to, there definitely is an element of tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of just like, you have to prove your worth.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a bit of kind of like, you've got to prove to other people that you're good. It's not just based on the content. It has to be kind of...
For some reason, culturally, I think Australians are just like hard asses. Like, Nick Cave famously couldn't get famous here until he got famous in Europe. And then suddenly Aussies were like, I was liking Nick Cave before it was cool. But he wasn't big here until he got big elsewhere. You know what I mean?
I'm not bitter about it. But,
No, I'm just saying, everybody
so
has a
weird,
tough time in Australia.
I understand. I mean, look, I think the more films you make, the more of a name you get, the easier these relationships will be, because doors do open up for you. And it's just a matter of going, hey, can we have a coffee? Let me show you something. But I think at the time, I mean, it was just a very, very. It came. We didn't even have a bloody premiere because the cinemas were closed.
Yeah.
So imagine shooting this film and all the struggles you're going through, and you can't even stand up in front of your cast and crew to thank them in public. It was just, everyone worked so goddamn hard on that film. They just went above and beyond. Like, some of the best cast and crew I've ever worked with. Only for an Australian audience not to be able to see it.
Yeah.
So that's still on the back burner for me. That film needs to come out in Australia, I think, especially now the shorter version with the different ending. I think it will resonate a little bit better with an audience, but hopefully maybe I can springboard off freelance if it does well.
Let's hope.
Let's hope it. But yeah, that one was a journey, and that took a lot out of me making that film, because, like I said earlier on, I wasn't ready to do another one for at least another 2 years. I got tired. I got tired from that one. But yeah, that was a hard film to make. Very enjoyable to make, but it was definitely hard, and I'm hoping that an Australian audience can see it.
Yeah. And as you said before, that was your film school.
That was
so
my film
all
school.
the lessons you learned kind of helped in making Freelance.
Absolutely.
A lot of your actors are really talented. You know, obviously, watching both movies recently, like the acting was really good for an indie film, and I don't mean that as a put down. It's just, you know, in the indie sphere, you get people of all skill levels. You know what I mean? But the standouts for age for me were Matt Theo, obviously, who I liken to an Australian John Krasinski.
Okay, yeah,
you can see it.
I can see it.
And Hayley Beveridge, obviously.
Yes, Hayley. Oh man, yeah.
But man, Jasper Bagg.
Jasper Bagg.
How did you score Jasper Bagg?
Jasper Bagg. Oh my God, there's Jasper Bagg. How did I meet Jasper?
He's in both films.
Yeah, he's in both films.
He
Yeah.
plays a private detective in
Jasper's
Rage,
just-
and
He's
the
a big.
landlord
Isn't
in
he? He's a big time
Freelance.
actor.
Yeah, he's known. He's known. I love Jasper. I love working with him. He's just got one of those faces that just screams to be on camera. You know.
Yeah. When she opens the door in Freelance, and I saw him, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. you gotta put that guy in a western or something.
Yeah.
I love Jasper. Jasper's amazing. Yeah, like that's what I was talking about before. Just hanging around on set with mates, you know. But thanks to what you said about the acting, it's like I'm always looking for actors that I don't have to direct. You know that old saying, casting is 90% of directing. It's true.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to tell the actor how to breathe and how to deliver lines. It's like if you know your stuff, come to set. Like I'm very, very demanding of my performers and my actors, and that can come across sometimes as a bit rough, a bit authoritarian, but in return for my demands, which are not a lot, it's just come to set knowing your lines and come prepared. That's all I want you to do, is come focused, right? And in an exchange for that, I'll let you play. I will let you explore, take after take. I will give you the time to get what you want out of this character. No problem. That's the exchange that I've got. It's like, okay, you want to hone your craft, you want to play, you want to explore this character, you want to make it your own, go for it.
Do you believe in improv?
To a certain extent, as long as the improvisation is within the notion of the character. I again, if you come to set prepared and you've done your research, no decision that you make as an actor is going to be wrong, because now you're in that character, right? So if you're playing an alcoholic and you improv throwing up or something in a scene, that's feasible because you're an alcoholic. But you're not going to suddenly break out into song and dance. You know what I mean? But,
have you ever had an actor in the middle of a scene be like, John, this doesn't feel right. I think my character would do this something like a different.
Yes.
And like, are you one of those directors who's like, no, this is my script? I mean, you just answered that.
No.
I know, but are you always like, have you entertained it and then found that might be better result with like the new way of?
Absolutely. I love it when people come to me. Like I've had lighting guys come up to me and go, "Hey, John, when she's delivering that line, why doesn't she just move here because the lighting?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good idea." I love being challenged. I love being, I'm never the type of director to be like, "No, this is my vision. This is the script. No. That's a blueprint, and I'm going on set, and I don't know every bloody thing. Okay."
And it takes a village.
It takes a village. It's like, no. If you got a good idea, raise it. And I'm not ego driven, because at the end of the day, it's directed by John Balazs. It's like, bring out the best ideas, everyone. Show me. It's not my idea to grab the oars of the boat and just like, no, everyone sit down. It's like, everyone grab a paddle. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's leadership. That's leadership,
Collaboration. Like
collaboration.
Earlier,
If you've got a good idea, it will never get shut down. And I don't have the ego to be like, no, well, I didn't think of that, so I'm not going to implement it because I don't want. It's like, no. At the end of the day, it serves the story, it serves the purpose. Everyone's feedback is welcome, within reason. Don't come to me saying this character should start flying or something like that. I had a really funny story in one of the rage ones. I'm like, I think someone came up to me from the crew and said, "Hey, how would you feel like if this character was diabetic? I'm like, that's really interesting. He could be eating on nuts or something like that. And then I'm like, no, that would have been a good idea if you came to me 3 days ago when we shot his other stuff, because now I can't go back and reshoot it. But I'm like, I found that conversation really interesting. I'm like, okay, he's diabetic. I like that. It's different, But yeah, I never say no to ideas, but my actors are free to do that. My actors are free to explore. And that's why I'm very specific about who I work with. And, Matt Theo, he had so much to prove in Rage. It's his first dramatic role as an actor. And
he nails it.
Yeah, I think he did a great job. But he had to go so deep into himself for those dramatic parts that he felt uncomfortable. So I had to work with him quite a lot on that. Whereas if you see a scene with Richard Norton and Toddy Goldsmith, I did not direct them at all. At all. You guys are veterans. Roll the camera. Let's go. You know your lines. And I found myself watching them like,
wow.
Like that. And then Vicky was like nudging me, like, are you going to yell cut? I'm like, oh yeah, cut. Because I got so involved in the scene. But yeah, Haley didn't need much direction either, because I'm like, my direction to her was like, go to a dark place.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my follow-up question. Like, especially in a movie like Freelance, where it is incredibly dark subject matter, how do you keep everyone feeling comfortable?
Oh, you got to be a jokester on set. In between, I gave Nicole so much shit on set. It's just not funny. Like, there was just a really close shot of her finger turning the computer on, and I just go to her, I'm like, can you act better? She goes, what the hell do you mean? You gotta create a light, especially if it's a dark film like this. You got to create a light-heartedness on set. And when the cameras roll, the lights go down, and we're like, all right, back to the zone. But you gotta be a friend to the actors. You just can't be that person that's there to tell them what to do, because they need to come back and confide in you. They need to be able to trust you. Nicole had to trust me a lot with this film, a lot, because this drew out some quite, really dark things out of her. But I always wanted to make sure that I was there for her as an emotional support. I was there for her as a friend. And I was there for her as someone she trusted. And like, man, she nailed this film. I mean, she carries it. She just carried this film from frame one to frame, 5,000. The amount of dedication she put into this film, it's just, I'm really looking forward to doing more stuff with her. She's just phenomenal.
She was fantastic in this movie.
One of the scenes, obviously, without spoiling the film, especially since it's not released.
Jan 28th, yeah.
Nicole,
that's soon.
Yeah.
Or Katie, as the character, she puts on the glasses when she starts working.
Yes.
And that kind of sense of like, you can be in such a horrible place, but because she's working at that point, you got to kind of put a mask on.
Yes.
And that's such a great scene of just displaying that so well, that she's got all that darkness behind her, but it's on and she's got to do it.
Yeah, the glasses were a metaphor for her switching on and off from reality. But also, going back to what we were saying about inspiration, I don't know if you guys ever read Lord of the Flies.
Yeah,
a long time ago.
Yeah, so there's a character of Piggy. He loses his glasses, and that's what I'm talking about. You draw from different things in your life, And to me, glasses always represented that character of Piggy in Lord of the Flies, where he was the voice of reason, but as soon as his glasses broke, it just all went to shit. All chaos. Just all hell broke loose. So to me, glasses always represent that on and off of reality and authority. So I did make sure to. I mean, obviously there's shots in there of reflection of the things and all that. So that was all deliberate. But yeah, I was just I went to Nicole. I'm like, do you wear glasses? She's like, no. I'm like, well, you are now.
It's also just a good detail that makes it feel real. Like when you sit down, when she sits down, she has to put on her glasses to work.
Yeah.
And then when she gets up, she takes them off. And so you feel like she's a real person who does this every day.
Yeah.
Not just when the cameras are rolling,
Correct,
not just when, not just because it's a movie. It's like, oh, this is a real person who has to work and.
But it's also little things. It's also little things like, all right, another reason why I decided was like, all right, she's an editor. She's at a computer screen all day. Her eyesight would be going to shit. So I'm like, all right, let's add little things like that in. That an audience might not pick up, but I know I put it in there, and hopefully, someone was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, but the small details, they add up.
Hopefully, hopefully, we'll see. I'm quite excited to get it out there.
We might be back with more right after. We will be back with more right after these short messages. You are back live on 98.9 Northwest FM. This is the Tuesday Review. We are joined by John Balazs, talking all things filmmaking, Rage and Freelancer, his newest and upcoming feature films.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
one of the things I find interesting about your work is that both of these films feature home invasions. Now, I'm assuming that... No, I'm assuming... We made a joke before the show about, we opened the show with, hey, how about home invasions? But what's so interesting about it is, like, our home is like our castle, you know what I mean? It's like our place of, like, we're comfortable. Mm-hmm. So, it was obviously a personal choice to have the safe interior being broken into by, criminals. But, like... Are you, like, what is it about, like, the home invasion that terrifies you? And, like, what is it that draws you to that place?
It's the whole... Go back to 1960s, Alfred Hitchcock Psycho. Shower is meant to be the safest place, right? Mm. He turned that on its head, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. It's just about making people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's making people feel like
they're not safe.
Yeah. It's also something that happens, at least in Victoria. I know people who've had people I work with had home invasions. It's like
a big fear of mine, and it's one of those things where you can turn your life upside down. But the home invasion in Freelance was put in by the script writer.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes. But they're also very different.
They are different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one's quite brutal.
They're both quite dark. Yeah. And violent.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's like you were saying earlier about the Dateline thing, and it's like it comes from the true crime sort of real life. It's a grounded, sort of gritty, realistic.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like the most extreme. It's the most extreme example of it. To the point where like
the one that I don't want to go into true crime because I could go on for ages, but the one that really shits me off is the Golden State Killer, who he would get the husband to lie on the floor and put the plates on his back and say, if you move and I hear the plates, I'll kill your wife, and then he'd take the wife upstairs. Just the most evil thing. Like
see, you can take that and put it into a film.
Yeah.
You can take little elements like that and put it into a film.
Speaking of Fincher,
you're not going to get taken to court by a serial killer. That was my idea.
We
hey, copyright. Yeah.
Speaking of Fincher, like Manhunter and like taking all those serial killers and sort of fictionalizing, like that was great.
Again, he's a big inspiration for me. Huge inspiration. Even down to the way I color grade.
Well, actually, that's what I was going to say. I love the color grading of your movies.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm always like, go darker, go darker. A lot of Aussie films come out and they're like, I'm watching them, I'm like, has this been graded? Yeah. Because they're so blown out, they're so whitewashed, and they're so like there's no contrast in them. You look at a film like The Dry, I'm like, has this been color graded at all? Or
does that also that comes from your experience as an editor too?
Correct.
As well.
Correct.
So you have that in your mind
but
already.
I'm always going, no, go darker. Don't be afraid to shoot in the shadows. Don't be afraid to shoot in dark, because
a lot of directors seem to have forgotten how to shoot dark scenes, because we complain all the time about more Hollywood movies. You won't be able to see anything in a dark scene. Whereas you look at movies from the 80s and the 90s, you can have a dark scene, but you can still see what's going on in the film. Which is true of your films.
Well, that's why I'm always a big I'm always big on practical lighting in my films. So that's why in Rage you're going to see 7 lamps in a shot. I'm like, more lamps, guys, more lamps. Because I love that warm look. The way he bounces off a wall. So and again, going back to being an editor, I'm color grading on set. I'm like, all right, make that light warm in the corner because I know it's going to, bounce off softly. So it's just little things like that.
Are you able to talk more about that kind of stuff? Because one of the things I love about your films is the cinematography and editing work together to create the suspense and the tension. But that also includes lighting, just like the music, whatever. So like, what's your key criteria if you're looking at making a scene more intense? Like, what are the things that you look to?
Intense or cinematic?
Well, both, I guess. But I'm looking for like the thriller aspect. Like when you're on set, what are the things you look at? You're like, we need to be looking at this.
Okay. A lot of it does come down to pre-production and taking stills from films that you love. So I took a lot of stills from Seven, Gone Girl, what was the other one? Panic Room, things like that. And I'm like, all right, you see how, I went to the DOP. I'm like, you see how soft the edges are around here? He's like, yes. I'm like, can we achieve that? He goes, with a diopter. I'm like, okay, what's a diopter? He goes, well, it's a little lens that does this and that. I'm like, okay, you've just answered my question. I'm not a DOP. I don't understand the science behind the camera, but you do. Here's a picture. Go do what you need to do to make it happen. That's directing. Not, hey, put the camera here. What's the focal length? Blah, 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 blah. On set, if I don't like a shot, I'll be like, hey, can we maybe change it to a 45, or a 35 or a 65 lens? I'm like, let's play around with it. Let's see what it does. And I basically always hire DOPs that are up and coming and are hungry. They're hungry and they're good at what they do, but they just haven't been given a chance yet. Those are the people that I hire. Those are the people that I love to work with because I'm hiring versions of myself.
And they'll also, if you're young and hungry, you're also more likely to want to take risks and try different things.
You want to do the best that you can. Whereas like if you're a bit more experienced, and mind you, I don't mind working with experienced DOPs, but I just find that the energy of younger up and coming DOPs, someone like a David Chan who shot Freelance, he was so enthusiastic. He had his iPad, he's showing me stuff. He's like, hey, if we do this, if we do that, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, this is good, this is great. Let's try it. Let's try it. And he knew lighting. He knew how to shoot in shadows, just like Ben Luck did with Rage. He had such amazing ideas that I was like, I didn't think of that. Let's go with it. Let's do it. Or a lot of the times he'll try to explain something. Both DOPs did this. They would try to explain something to me. I'm like, I don't understand. I don't get it. And they were like, all right, let me show you. And they do a setup, and I'm like, hey, this looks pretty damn good. Let's roll. Let's do it. You can only go so far in pre-production, but once you're on set and once you see the dressing, once you see like, hey, you know what, this brick wall would look better if it was, lit with a warm light, or if it was lit, in another way, or let's try this and let's try that. You have to be creative on your feet on set once you're on set, because a lot of my sets that I go to are practical sets. I don't build anything. I try to find, Airbnbs or the real locations that they say in the script. I try to find those. A lot of the times we are limited for time and budget, so we just have to try to do the best we can. And you got to let the DOP and the lighting team know that, hey guys, we're here for 6 hours. Let's light it let's light it universal, which is what I call it, so we don't have to keep relighting for every camera setup. If it's a close-up or something, yeah, okay, get a couple of fillers and all that, yeah, let's do it. But I'm not the type of guy to tell them how to do it or what to do. I'm just like, all right, here's an image of what I want, and can we achieve that in a quick turnaround? And 9 times out of 10, we can. So I'm always working with crew that are up and coming and hungry and that want to put in that extra effort, because they have so much to prove, along with myself. So again, I'll go back to that saying, hire yourself just as a different role. Because I don't know about lighting. I don't even know about writing. That's why I never write my own stuff, because I'm like, I know myself enough to know that I don't have that discipline.
Yeah, know your limitations.
Know your limitations. So hire people that are good at what they do, that are just as up and coming and as hungry as you. Surround yourself with a team that have something to prove for themselves, and just go nuts.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. Yeah.
I guess, we've... quickly using all of our time, let's refocus just a little bit. So your upcoming film is Freelance.
Yes.
So where, I guess, you said January 28th.
January 28th has been released. We have a premiere in Sydney on the 22nd of January.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be flying up to Sydney and doing a bit of a Q&A, and that will be the second time it's had a screening after first Monster Fest and now Sydney. So Radioactive have kindly put on a premiere for us, and they've been great. Radioactive features. They're again going back. They're the ones that are like up and coming, and they're really going to start giving it to the mid to bigger distributors coming up in the next few years, because their slate of work is really impressive, and they're really pushing the limits. So that's going to be released through Radioactive on Jan 28th.
Is that theatrical release or streaming?
No, straight to VOD. And then obviously with these kind of things, that it's got windows, so it's VOD window for maybe 3 months or something like that, and then it's AVOD for I guess maybe the rest of its life, and then it could be like subscription. We'll see. Maybe Stan will take it. Maybe Netflix will take it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
maybe we can harass some local theaters into showing it as well.
We'll see. We'll see. It's the first film that actually got rated of mine, so it's got a classification which I'm happy about.
We joked about that actually.
I think we had a question about that.
Yeah.
No, it ended up being MA, so it's not bad.
MA, that's not bad.
MA.
Yeah, well, the first draft of our question for that was, how hard did they laugh at you when you showed them the movie?
No, I think they needed a therapist afterwards.
Yeah. So that's good. So we'll be able to see Freelance, and maybe when it's out and available for everyone to watch, we'll do a more focused review on the show for it too.
Definitely people listening should check it out when it does come out. So keep an eye out for that. We'll obviously put links and stuff in the description later. I just want to quickly mention before I forget, when you're talking about the cinematography of Freelance, there's a couple of shots I really liked that were like inside the hard drive.
Ah, yes.
And you see it like whirring, and I was like, oh, that's great. And then there's one at the end, which I won't spoil, but there's a character in the kitchen and a character sitting on the couch, like in the lounge room, nearby. Yeah. And the camera kind of turns to the guy on the couch, turns to the person in the kitchen, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I think a lot of indie movies, like you were saying earlier about editing, people forget the coverage and they forget the little insert shots. I think just sometimes cinematography of indie films can be lacking, and your film felt really like
a film.
No, that's the thing though. Both your movies are like bona fide movie cinema.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. Like I watched them and I was like, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, if we have time.
We have heaps of time.
Is Australian cinema the last few years? Oh my god, we're on the up and up. We talk every time we get a director on. We're like, what is it looking like from the inside? Because to us, just going in and watching these films, we could rattle off a dozen like amazing Australian movies that have come out in the last few years. Like, do you guys feel that energy on the inside, or is it just like you can see other directors doing cool things and you're trying to?
No, it's just looking at what not to do. Okay, it's what don't you want to see? It's like just because we're in Australia doesn't mean we can't make a film that looks American.
Yeah.
And there's such a push against it for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like, again, going back to what I said earlier, if you're not in the system, they can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So,
but again, like we're in a really exciting time for Aussie indie movies. Like with James rattled off a couple before, like Bird Eater, Emotion is Dead recently.
Yeah,
Residence,
that was great. Residence.
Like Flathead was amazing.
Flathead.
Talk to Me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Talk to Me. Yep.
Yeah, Late Night with the Devil.
Devil Disorder. Late Night with the Devil. Yeah.
There's a lot of good DOPs coming up and coming, which is also credit to them as well.
Well, Adam LaRosa, when we talked to him about it, because like whenever we get an Australian director, I always have to ask, like, is the buzz, like I said, is the buzz is evident on the inside as it is to us? And he said that the change is that Australian filmmakers are kind of finally deciding to do genre fiction instead of coming of age. Whereas Australia has a rich tradition of coming of age movies. But it's like now that everyone has Netflix and everyone's watching all these international movies, people want to make what they want to see, which is like genre fiction and thrillers.
No, you just gotta make a decision. You can either work within the system and what is required, or go against it and just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do. I find the latter to be a bit more satisfying, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's where the interesting stuff comes from.
Yeah, stuff that you're not limited.
Yeah. Moving on, we always ask this question to our guests in the studio. What is gut feeling? What is your favourite film and why?
Don't think about it.
You probably saw the tattoo on my arm.
Seven Samurai?
Seven Samurai, yeah.
I was looking at that tattoo.
After I saw that film, I'm like, damn, you can do that with film. It is, oh my God, perfection.
Yeah, Kurosawa's the goat.
It's perfection.
So film. Good.
Yeah.
Good, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Worst film.
Worst film.
No, don't answer that. That's fine.
All right, this one might start a bit of a fight. Are you very familiar with? I mean, you would be, but how do you enjoy the Fast and Furious franchise?
No. Oh, a fun fact about me as John Bell, I have yet to see one DC or Marvel film. Ooh. I haven't seen one of those. I don't even know how many there are. I don't even know.
Too many.
I wouldn't even know which order to watch them in. I just completely avoided them because to me that stuff is video games. It's the cutscenes from video games.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, you're probably not missing much.
As someone who's like seen it all, like it's not, unless you're like really into comics, it's not really worth.
I appreciate what they are, but they're just not.
Yeah,
they also kind of ruin the film industry.
Yeah, they're not. We don't really go see them anymore. I watch them when they come to streaming. Like their content. It's like a TV. It's like they're basically cheap TV shows that they release at the movies and that cost $200 million.
No, I want more films like Long Legs to come out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, you know?
Yeah.
It was like original movies. They don't break the barrier. They don't reinvent the wheel. But it was just an original story with good acting. I miss that shit. You know, bring more of that on. Bring more of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking
Yes.
forward to The Monkey.
Yeah.
Did you watch The Black Coat's Daughter by any chance?
No.
I
I got 2 kids. I don't watch films, so I don't have time.
So if you like Long Legs, you'll enjoy that one. I have a fan theory that they're set in the same world because they have like a similar version of the devil and there's similar horror tropes with the phone set.
Okay.
I liked Black Coat's Daughter. That was Oz Perkins, his earlier film. More than I didn't really like Long Legs that much, but I thought Black Coats was.
I only mentioned Long Legs because that's the last film I saw.
Yeah.
But that's a good
but again,
that's a good example of something that's not just a mainstream.
And we mourn the loss of the mid-budget movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Goodbye,
Yeah.
90s. Not anymore.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, actually.
We recently did a. I know you don't do rom-coms, but we're pretty big rom-com people from
not.
the. Yeah, he's not, but he has, he's a toxic masculine guy. He doesn't watch. But I'm talking about like 80s and 90s
Proper
rom-coms,
rom-coms.
like
Yeah.
When Harry Met Sally, Sleepers in City, Got
yeah.
Mail. They're like mid-budget movies, and you look back and see the box office returns, huge.
Yeah, they were good films though back then. You know, Go Home Alone.
But it's also
Yeah.
I love
it's
that.
also like we always talk about this on the show. Like you look at the top grossing movies of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. It's a varied, like the top 10. It could be like a drama, an action film, a sort of fantasy sci-fi. Like there's ups and downs, like different genres.
There's variations,
yeah. There's R-rated ones, there's PG ones, there's PG-13 ones. Now everything is the same, safe, PG-13, kids movie, superhero movie. All the movies are exactly the
Unfortunately.
same. They all look the same. They all sound the same.
Yeah, imagine going to the movies and like your choices are like an Arnie flick and like a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Don't get that anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's good stuff coming out. I mean, I heard really good things about like films like The Substance.
That is a good film.
That's meant to be good.
Yeah.
It's changing. It changed the norm with a couple of things. I think now with the rise of new younger filmmakers coming out,
Yeah.
they're giving them more of a
It's
chance.
just
still
getting them
great
into the
stuff.
cinemas.
Yeah, there's still great stuff like A24, those types of mid-budgety movies, they're coming out. It's just not the same as it used to be when the highest grossing and the studio films that they put money behind were, courtroom dramas and movies like Freelance that, back in the day would have been more mainstream perhaps.
Yeah, I think it would.
And a studio might have had the balls to say, hey, we're going to actually give you some money and release this at the movies.
We're
instead
not
of you having
internal to the industry, obviously, but I think also part of the problem is the theaters don't want to take the risk of playing some of these movies too.
No, because then there's no money involved in it. Like
Yeah.
they will not make their money.
Yeah.
No.
Like for example, with Freelance, we approached Lionsgate with it, and they actually watched the film and they said we love it. It's just not commercial enough. And then I think 3 or 4 weeks later, The Crow flopped. They had another 2 films flop in the cinemas.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you could have just taken your
Like,
chance on this one.
But that's
you know?
them being stupid. Like, of course The Crow was going to flop. They keep making this garbage. It's like Sony with the Morbius and Madam Web and what's the other
Craven.
one? Craven. It's just like they keep flopping and they're like, why is this happening? I wonder why.
It's a Craven.
DC,
You don't
DC,
wanna
one
know.
of the DC superhero movies.
They spend
yeah.
$200 million on garbage and then one scratch their head.
But
as to
also,
why.
the other part of it is you have the companies like Disney specifically who will go to the theaters and they say, I want 15 screenings of this
Yeah.
movie, otherwise you don't get it. And then they have no choice but to play.
Yes, it's all a
Yeah.
money game. And unfortunately, the biggest hurdle in the film industry for indie filmmakers is money. As my good friend Adam said last time he was on, is money is the biggest restrictor.
Yeah.
The best advice I can give filmmakers out there is to learn commerce and learn how to do a pitch deck and how to do budgets properly.
I think we talk on this show. If we were millionaires, we just have like an art house theater that just played weird shit all day.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much what we do. Like, don't want the Disney movies.
yeah.
But, unfortunately, it's that art versus commerce side of it where commerce always wins.
But
in the
again,
end.
make it cheap.
Yeah.
Make it cheap. I mean, none of my films cost $500,000.
Have you heard of Darcy Yule before?
No.
One of the first directors to reach out to us was a Melbourne filmmaker called Darcy Yule. and he did iPhone photography for his film.
Mm-hmm.
So he did it all guerrilla filmmaking. Like he didn't get permits for every single set, and he would just do it with. I mean, I say just do it with an iPhone. Like they probably don't have a lot of equipment that goes along with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like taking an iPhone out and filming. They have lens equipment and
Yeah.
these fancy doohickeys. But yeah, he said just do it. No one can stop you. You just get out there and you make
Ask
it
for
happen.
forgiveness.
Yes.
You know, not permission. Not
Yeah,
permission.
100%.
I'm always of two minds about doing that guerrilla style, because I'm like, if you got all these people on set, you got actors, you've invested time in pre-production, a lot of time in pre-production, you spent money in pre-production, you've built trust with actors for 12 weeks. You don't want to rock up to a set with an iPhone, you know. And as a director, that's not going to challenge me, because I need to know that what does the 75mm lens on an RE Alexa look like when the actor is 10 feet away? What does it look like when he's 5 feet away? Again, you can't explore cinema with an iPhone. You know, go back to people like Sergio Leone. Who the hell would have thought that a Western would look good with a guy standing 2 meters from a camera with a wide-angle lens? That vista is iconic because he tried stuff, you know. He knew the camera, he knew the lenses, he knew the science behind it. You can't explore that when you do shit on the cheap, you know.
I think you can explore it just in a different way, like Michael Mann using digital in the way he did in Collateral,
Yes.
where he's like, oh, here's this new thing, I'm going to mess with it and see
exactly.
how crunchy and weird it can get. And then he did like Miami Vice and Public Enemies, which didn't look anywhere near as good and kind of looked like garbage. And it's like, okay, that's kind of where we took that. And now digital movies all look flat and the same.
Yeah.
But there are, you know, there's like Danny Boyle who made 28 Days Later with like a camcorder, and now he's making the new one with a phone.
But did you see the photo of him filming it with the phone?
Oh, it's
with
got a
like
whole-
$200,000 lenses.
Yeah.
Not quite the same.
But, you know, it's like it's still something you can play around with and use it to sort of explore different...
We've got people still fighting for celluloid. You know?
Oh, 100%. I mean,
You know?
we're all like, everyone, like, especially me, like, old movies were better. We always say
they
that.
had a softness and a crunch to them. You know?
Yeah,
It's
like-
nice.
And they last, if you
So-
look after it, they last better. They can, you know, release...
I'm
4K.
a fan of old cinema.
as
too.
a like a physical media nut, I'm always like,
Yeah.
you know, I want the 4K restoration of the 35mm or the 70mm. So, and you know, the way they made movies back then was better. But what I'm saying is, I think even with the technology now, and even on the cheap, it's like if you have the passion, if you have the idea, like if you're someone who, you know, has like crazy out of the box kind of ideas, like you can still, there's still good stuff coming out.
There is.
It's just not supported in the same way as it was back in the day from like studio perspective, and it's not rewarded in the same, like risks. Not as many people take risks, and it's just a different.
The Blair Witch days are gone.
Exactly, it's completely different.
And the only film that did that successfully after Blair Witch was Paranormal Activities.
And that's still 16 years ago.
Saw,
whenever it was,
maybe?
more.
You know,
But that's 20
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
so you know, a lot of horror films now are psychological horror. It's like, how can horror be artistic?
The elevated
and
horror.
In walks.
That's one of my
we talked
major
about-
complaints.
and in
Just
walks
give me a slasher.
A24.
Yeah.
You know?
we watched X when it came out, and we were like, like, you know, we like elevated horror, but like finally it's just a movie about a person who's just like a killer.
Yeah.
You know, we
But
kinda,
even that has like elements of the elevated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
I mean, you
with
look
like
at things
Pearl
like
and
Hereditary, for example. Great film, but it's about it's not so much a horror as in in terms of the term horror.
It's also something like, you know, horror wasn't taken seriously as an art form or a storytelling, as a genre. And so now they're making these elevated horror, and so people are taking it seriously. It's like, but John Carpenter was making some of the best films ever.
Yes.
And he was making genre films.
Yes.
So like, it's just this snobbery of like, oh, you can't have a good horror film, and only now you know we're getting elevated horror. It's like, oh well, now they're good. It's like, no, sometimes great movies are canon movies. you know, they're some of my favorite movies.
Yes.
You know,
we haven't been terrified by a horror movie in a long time. I remember the last time I kind of felt scared at a horror movie was when James watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time.
Oh, the
At our
original.
place, yeah. Well, did we use our projector for that? I can't remember.
I don't remember. It's a
That
very
sounds like
long
fun.
time ago.
But Toby Hooper, one of the greatest. But there's this scene, because of course that was shot on film, so it looks great. But there's this scene where I can't remember the protagonist's name in the film, but she's running through the woods, and you just see him hulking
He's just
behind her, and you
screaming,
hear the
just keeps going.
chainsaw. It's blood
Yeah,
curdling.
see, that's terrifying, you know.
It's
Yeah.
blood curdling.
And
Yeah.
there's no real on-screen violence. It's just the
No,
threat.
it's like
Yeah.
the first time you see violence, he hits a woman on the head, a guy on the head with a sledgehammer, and he starts having a seizure.
Yeah,
and you're just
yeah.
like, "There's no blood.
I can't do that
No.
gore horror stuff.
But there's no blood.
I don't have the stomach.
There's
for
no
it.
blood.
But
It's
it-
just awful to
the
watch.
way the filmmaking is so
Yeah.
Raw.
raw that it's like it feels a lot more violent than it technically
Yeah.
is. It's
Well,
like
what do you guys think of the hammer scene in Rage?
Disgusting.
Yeah.
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 Okay, but I didn't.
I
show
wanted-
it.
No,
show
but
it,
it was
did I?
filth. Yeah.
to be yeah. No, to be fair, I wanted more. Gore,
Even the
but
water.
that was just
Even
me.
one of your films has a waterboarding scene.
Yes.
Even that
was
sounds
brutal,
sounds
yeah.
awful.
Oh, that's what made Tony. It's just him being Tony.
That's just fun, eh?
Yeah.
That's just fun. Yeah.
They were just
Oh,
doing that. You just started. They
Can
just
I-
started recording.
Can I say something? A lot of awful things happen to people in Rage. Violence, just awful things. The worst thing in Rage is the guy who squeezes the toothpaste from the top and not the bottom. Unforgivable. Unforgivable.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
It's the,
All the violence I can forgive, that
It's the
That's
quarrels
it.
of marriage. And
Yeah.
outside the line,
done. A divorce.
You know? Divorce.
The movie should have been 5 minutes long. We're getting a divorce.
You know, that whole film could have been solved with a divorce. You know?
Yeah,
You
100%.
know, we need to go down that road. But yeah. No, I'm glad you guys liked the film. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No,
Appreciate
well,
it.
yeah. I want to off the air. I want to hear about the other ending. But
Sure.
Yeah.
moving
That's
on, what is one thing that you would tell like up and coming filmmakers or people who want to get into the industry? What advice would you give them?
Okay, don't go to film school. It's a waste of money.
Yep.
James feels so validated right
attest.
now.
Yeah,
I can
do not go to
attest to
film
that.
school. It's a waste of money. There's so many. It's so much easier to be a filmmaker now than ever. You have resources at your fingertips. You have YouTube. You have any sort of tutorial you want. You have rental houses now willing for you to come in and look at their cameras and ask questions, and you have access to $100,000 cameras that you never had access to 10 years ago,
Yeah.
15 years ago. You know, as an 18-year-old, I would never have dreamed of touching an ARRI Alexa. You know, it's the mythical being that is a filmmaker is no longer mythical. You can just do it.
Yeah,
Just do
and DaVinci Resolve is free.
Yeah, it's
It
free.
used to cost like $100 grand.
So many resources now. You don't need to go to film school because they will just be telling you what you can learn for free. Debt free, pretty much here in Australia. Debt free. My advice to you is to get onto a set as a runner, as a coffee boy, as someone who irons shirts. Do what you need to do to get onto a set. Connections. Talk to people. Invite them out for a coffee. Tell them who you are. Let yourself be known. That's the best way to do it as an 18-year-old kid. And if you really want to do it, think twice. Think really, really hard whether or not you want to go down this route, because it's not easy. It's not easy. I have been fortunate in life to have a wife and a partner who is a producer, who understands this world, who understands the patience and what it requires for you to make it and to make a living out of this stuff. A lot of people don't. A lot of people, you know, this industry is a relationship killer. So unless you find someone that's like-minded or has supported you 100%, you will be tackling that side of life as well quite heavily. You're going to have really bad days. You're going to have bad months. You're going to have bad years where your luck seems like it's down the drain. It's at those times that you got to hold on the most, because as my wife says, it's easy to quit when you're down, but try quitting on a good day. Try quitting when everything's going so well for you and you're on cloud nine. Quit then, and then we'll see if you want to do it. And 9 times out of 10, you're like, no, I love it. It's worth the hassle. Just understand that this industry, you're not going to make it overnight. It takes years and years and years, and a sprinkle of luck. And the beauty of luck is you can make your own luck. So really focus on the craft. Don't go to set thinking that you know everything. Listen to experienced DOPs. Ask questions about the lighting. Talk to the sound guy. Try to learn as much about filmmaking from every single department as possible. Because if you want to be a director, you might find out that directing is not for you. You might be better suited as a DOP. You might be better suited as an editor, as a sound recordist or a sound designer. Find what you love, master it, and work your ass off. That's pretty much it.
Excellent. Yeah, good advice. Good advice for any creative field, really, I would say, too.
Oh, and learn economics. Learn economics. Learn how to do a pitch deck and learn how to talk to high investor. Ask yourself this. What would I need to do? What would I need to say to myself for me to give someone $10? What would I need to tell myself? How would I convince myself to part with money? Learn how to talk to people.
The Wolf of Wall Street thing, sell me the pen.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's one of the most important things any person who's, I guess, presented their films here and everything else come and talk to us have said, is that part where a lot of times you want to talk about being passionate, putting in the hard work.
Passion's not enough.
And everything else. But like you said, that's not enough.
No.
There needs to be money. If, all right, you're willing to do it for free, you have to pay, your people.
Yes.
And that money has to come from somewhere. So being able to sell your vision, everything else,
correct,
is so important.
Sell yourself.
Yeah.
Sell yourself. Your vision. I don't want to swear.
That's all right.
Who the hell gave money to Human Centipede? Who the hell went into, hey, I got this idea for a movie. We're going to sew people's faces to their asses, right? You're going to love it. I need 100 euro, 50 million euros. Sure, here you go. No, that wasn't it. It was, hey, I've got an idea. It's not a good idea. It's shit, right? But it is going to cause controversy, and people are going to watch it. And you're going to 10x your money. That is interesting to an investor. An investor doesn't want to know what you're shooting on, how you're going to shoot it, who's involved. I mean, yeah, if you've got a big cast, yeah, okay, they want to know and all that. But they're not going to want to know what camera you're using, what editing software you're using. They're going to be like, if I give you $2, how do I make $8 back? Learn how to do that. That is the most important thing in filmmaking. Because like I said, any idiot can pick up a camera and shoot. That's not the hard part. The hard part is going, how do I make this film into a product that people will be able to see? And that's a challenge. Right there.
Yeah. And even like you told the story of how obviously an investor pulling out, that sort of thing, like that's heart-wrenching, but also knowing that, it's not like if you get the investment, from somewhere, they're going to say, oh, we'll give you $100,000 and it's in your account the next day. No, they'll probably give it to you piecemeal, and then there's a chance that
correct.
They would say.
Well, it was hard to go back to that investor because he pulled out with 80 grand, but that investor was my boss. So I couldn't even rip into him, going, hey, why'd you do that? You screwed up everything, blah, blah, blah. Just smile and be like, okay, yeah, sure, no worries, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it's just going, all right, this happened, and that happened for a reason. Now, a bit of a side note, a bit of an interesting fact. If that person had kept his money in our film, that person right now is being investigated for fraud. So everything that happens to you, you got to have some sort of faith. You don't have to have faith in God or any higher universe. Just have faith in the universe, at least, that it will direct you in the right in the right way. Because a no today will be upsetting. It will crush you. It will hurt you. A door closing is like, why always me? Why don't I have luck? Dude, that door closed for a reason. It closed for a reason because you weren't meant to go through that door. You weren't meant to go down that avenue. You weren't meant to explore that option. And at the time it hurts and you're like, this is just bad luck. It's not bad luck. You are being redirected to go this way because my fortune, not money fortune, but like my
circumstances.
My circumstances have been great because I've received a lot of no's. And as you get older and as you get more experience, you're like, okay, that no is actually good for me. Because I would have done this.
You have to develop thick skin.
For example, when I was trying to look for distributors for Rage, I really wanted this production company to take it on board as a distributor in America. And I was hounding him. I'm like, please take it. This is, I think this would be good. They declined it. A year later, they went bankrupt. Right? So I'm like, okay, that was there for a reason. I wasn't meant to go with these people for a reason. Because if my film was with them now, it would have been in a bankrupt distributor. Where would it be? And I don't know if you guys know what happened with Distributor. There's all these filmmakers out there whose films are now in limbo because they went through them. So I got saved from that because I got a no. No's are good. No's are doors closing because you're not meant to go through that.
Narrows your options down.
Yeah, it narrows it down, but no's are warnings. No's are like, all right, don't go down that path. Don't. Try something else, you know? And that helps you. The quicker you learn that as a filmmaker, the more you'll keep of your sanity, you know? And again, surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with your Adam LaRosas, your Nicoles, your Matt Theos, you know? Surround yourself with people that are going to be there for you. You know, one of the EPs on Freelance, Geordie, he's a good friend of mine. He was the one that started it all. He's like, what do you need, John? What do you need to make a film? And I told him, he goes, okay, I'm going to put in some money and I'm going to get some people around me to put in some money for you. You know, he started it off. He was the engine that started this film going, you know, so I'm always indebted to him. Surround yourself with people like that, really good people, you know. You know, again, shout out to Travis as well, Travis and Doug and everyone who invested into Freelance. You know, you guys are really the heroes behind it all, you know, in order to trust, because you can't make a film without money. It's just that simple, you know. Money talks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm waffling on again.
No, that's all right.
This is what we want.
It's all gold. This is what the show's about.
Yeah.
That's it.
Where can people find you? Are you
Okay,
on the socials?
I'm pretty private on socials, so don't try to add me on Instagram or Facebook.
Prima Lux or
Prima,
Freelance or
Prima Lux Films. You can find us on our Facebook and our Instagram on Prima Lux. I don't control that. My wife does, so don't don't think that I'm the one uploading or messaging back or anything like that. But you can get in touch with me there on Prima Lux Films Instagram or our Facebook, and be happy to hear from you.
Yes, we'll post again when Freelance comes out. We'll keep our audience on top of that too.
Yeah. And hopefully, if we haven't, scared you away, we'll hopefully have you back for another interview.
Absolutely, I'm happy to come back. No problem.
What's next?
Next, I've written an outline for a film that's centered around AI.
Oh.
So I'm working on that with the freelance writer Mike Jabino. Same as last time, I've written an outline. I'm like, hey, I've got an idea of this, and this, and this. Can you write it for me? These are the beats that I want you to hit. So we're doing that. And hopefully...
AI,
that
nice
sounds
and
really
prescient,
good.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is all the best directors have partner screenwriters.
I mean, yeah.
You know, you look at Scorsese and I'm blanking his screenwriter's partner's name. He did Taxi Driver.
Paul Schrader.
They did quite a few together, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they did
and
a couple. But
Spielberg has Tony
Kushner. Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it
you
works,
guys
it works.
you guys are on the same wavelength.
Well, it's like using the same actors. You find someone you work well with. And
Well, I mean, I'd like to work with Nicole again. There's another up-and-coming actress that I've got an eye on. And again, just network with people. You know, you see someone that you're interested in, just be like, hey, I like you. You know, it's, how can we work together?
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon that's about all the time we have for tonight.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
No,
thank
you for coming and telling us your stories and just
your wisdom.
Your wisdom and giving us inspiration. As even though we're not filmmakers,
we dream about it.
We
go out and do it.
It's easy. It's like you're saying. It's like it's I was saying earlier I wasn't having a good time. It's like it's easy to something bad happens and you're like, well, I'm just gonna lie down and give up. So you have to just keep going and.
We're not filmmakers, but we're aspiring, radio presenters and podcasts and creatives ourselves in our own way.
What you guys are doing is great, so thank you for having me on board. It's always a pleasure.
No, thank you for coming, and
So
a rising tide lifts all boats.
We love to uplift Aussie cinema, so it's really important. If you can watch Rage and Freelance, please go out and see them. Support the Aussie industry, please.
Much appreciated.
You can find the Tuesday Review on all the socials at Tuesday Review AU. That's Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Newsmask, Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube. At Tuesday Review AU on all platforms. We're on Letterboxd as well. I'm Nathan B_90.
I'm Alan20.
I'm Channel Drifter.
On Count Tuesday.
Are you on Letterboxd, John?
No.
No? Okay.
You should get on there. You get to see all the reviews of your films.
No thanks. Once it's done, I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
You also have to be careful working in the industry and you put up a review.
Oh,
People
I've
will
seen that
destroy
happen.
you.
All the cast and crew, they're going, this film is great. I'm like, I know who you are.
I remember.
What was it? Francis Ford Coppola rated
own
Megalopolis on Letterboxd. He gave his own movie 5 stars, and we were like, so well made. But obviously tongue in cheek.
No, still, got to respect it. It's like, I like that I made this movie.
Exactly. I made it. I approve it.
Yeah.
All good. Thank you, guys.
No, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.